Welcome to this week's episode of Beyond Sports. I'm your host, the Fitted Nuggets fan. With me today is my co-host, Bob Taylor.
Hey.
We've got a great episode for you all today. First up, we're going to be doing some Nuggets Now. Then we'll be doing some Nuggets Knowledge, some trivia challenges that we had with some fans out there. And then we're going to be wrapping it up with some of the trade rumors that are circling around the NBA right now. So, Bob, why don't you give us a quick breakdown of this past week with the Nuggets?
So they went 2-1. It was definitely I'd say a good week overall. However, they did lose one in Philly early in the week on Tuesday. They beat the Celtics at the Celtics, which was to snap their home win streak, I think, of 20 wins at home. Mm-hmm. So they're 20-1 on the season. And then they beat the Wizards at home. So
yeah, definitely a good
road
week. Yeah, anytime we can come back with a positive percentage of wins on a road schedule with how the NBA has been structured this season with their scheduling, it's a good win for sure.
Yeah, definitely. I think there was two kind of playoff atmosphere games with Philly and the Celtics, and they lost that to Philly, and they won against the Celtics. And I think Malone kind of made the adjustments that maybe he saw in the Philly game. I don't think they all translate to the Celtics game, but I think some of them did. And I think he kind of made the adjustments he needed to.
Yeah, and I definitely agree with that. You know, both games for sure felt like playoff games. Absolutely that same atmosphere. And, you know, the big takeaway for me between the two games and the difference that we saw in the playoffs and obviously the finals was the big game from Murray and Jokic.
Yeah.
And I think that is the key. Whenever Murray and Jokic are driving at that level, the Nuggets are a very tough team to stop.
Yeah, I mean, Jokic had 34, 12, and 9. Murray had 35, 8, and 5 against the Celtics. That was a huge game for both of them. What I didn't necessarily love seeing is how Murray did against Philly. I mean, Jokic ended the game with 25, 19, and 3, which I also didn't love seeing. I don't like how well they were limiting Jokic's assists and playmaking ability. And then Jamal finished 17, 3, and 10 with 7 of 16 shooting. So, I mean, Jamal didn't play bad by any means, but in a game where we only lose by 5 to Philly, he needs to step up a little bit more than that.
That's the difference maker. I mean, as our number 2 superstar and hopefully potential all-star this season, that's what we've got to expect from him. And I like that in this road schedule. We saw that out of the first game. You know, first road game of the schedule, I can understand, you know, a little bit rocky to get started, but we definitely cleaned things up with the Celtics and then got home a strong W against the Wizards.
Yeah.
So, you know, like you had commented, good to see the adjustments being made. I think the big things that still stand out for me is the bench play is just still scattered and honestly directionless at this point. Like even towards the beginning of the season, it looked better. It's just gotten worse.
Yeah. Their bench looked okay during Philly. Honestly, they had 30 points combined for the bench, which is a pretty good game for the Nuggets bench. So I thought that they did well in that game. However, with the way that the defense was playing, they never stopped the 76ers from scoring. That's why it ended up being 121 to 126. The bench had a good game, and they still lost. Mm-hmm. I mean, none of the starters played poorly, really. KCP didn't play as great as I might have wanted him to, but that's not really his role to score that much. So the bench playing well and then us losing was a tough one. The bench not doing well against the Celtics and not doing well against the Wizards doesn't necessarily help. I mean, Peyton Watson, we just talked about a couple weeks ago how great he was shooting. He's back in a slump.
Yeah, and Reggie Jackson has joined him, unfortunately, and that's the worst-case scenario for Nuggets fans right now. I know I'm worried about it, and I just hope that we're able to kind of figure out how to get that bench going. And Mike Malone, you can see him making adjustments, making changes. Zeke Naji getting some playing time against the Wizards, and Zeke Naji continues just not to do much of anything, and we're just not getting a spark from anyone. And I think what we're starting to see is Mike Malone's rotating one of the starters with the bench almost at all times.
Yeah, you saw that heavily in the Celtics game, which is another reason why I say it was a playoff kind of atmosphere.
Basically, a 7-man
They
rotation.
essentially ran a 7-man rotation.
Yeah.
With Peyton Watson and Reggie. They had Christian Brown and I think it was DJ. I forget who the fourth man was, but
I saw a little bit of DJ in that game.
there was only 2 other people that played 5 minutes or less from the bench in the Celtics game other than Peyton Watson and Reggie.
Yeah, and it's tough. And, obviously we're missing Bruce Brown right now, and I just really can't wait for them to get more of that direction. But, kind of on a more positive note, really good to see Jokic stepping it up in the scoring department. Jokic isn't exactly known to be a consistent over 30-point guy, but 2 games in this road trip where he scored over 30 points, I mean, I love to see that. Jokic taking over is a big key for us winning.
Back-to-back 34-plus point games.
On both wins, I might add.
Yeah.
And had he done that with the Sixers, might have been a bit of a different outcome, So I think a lot of, obviously, the team rides or dies by Jokic. But at the end of the day, I think that's going to continue to be the difference maker to compensate for the bench at this time.
Yeah, definitely. Well, I think a big thing in the Philly game was their role players. I mean, Tobias Harris came alive in the second half. Batum, out of nowhere, is a lockdown phenomenal defender, and I mean I know he always has been, but to just
pretty
see
much
him,
his role.
But to just see him do that at that high a level on that big a stage was something I was not necessarily expecting to see. I was expecting to see maybe a steal or a block from him, not 2 blocks. And he was a team high +7 in 35 minutes.
Yeah. Batum can turn it up. I got to hand it to him. He
he
reminds me a lot of
great.
Andre Iguodala, honestly, a little bit. Like, comparatively speaking, very similar play style.
Yeah. Tobias Harris definitely played very well as well. He shot 80%. He had 24 points, 5 rebounds, 4 assists on 8 for 10 shooting.
The Sixers are tough.
They're very good.
And then you throw Maxey
I
and
hope
Embiid
we
in
see
that.
them in the finals. I mean, I think that would be the most fun NBA finals that we could possibly watch.
Yeah, I would go 7 games for sure.
That would be such a fun 7-game series.
I think it would really
watch.
come down to who has the home field advantage at the end of the day.
It could.
And I think that's what the Nuggets really want to start focusing on as we get towards the back half of the season, is trying to get up into that number 1 slot.
Yeah. And Maxey, I mean, in the first half, overall, he had 25, 5, and 9, and he shot 9 for 20. He was doing really well in the first half, but Mike Malone took him away in the second half, and instead of having Doc Rivers making the adjustments, they had Nick Nurse making the adjustments, and it's like, okay, we'll just go right to Tobias Harris, and he'll get us buckets.
Yeah,
And
Nick Nurse makes that a whole different beast.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think he makes Philly a much more dangerous contender, especially when it comes to a playoff atmosphere.
Yeah, transitioning to the next game there with the Celtics, I think one of the most impressive takeaways from that, conversely, especially after a game where we give up so much to Embiid, is the defense.
Oh, absolutely.
It was really great to see that against the Celtics, especially the Celtics, who are just such a well-rounded team. I mean, we want to talk about scary teams. Like the fact that the Sixers, Bucks, and Celtics all have to play each other, in the East and battle it out. I am so thankful for that.
I mean, the Celtics have the number 3 offensive rating in the NBA right now.
Yeah.
And the Nuggets held them to 100 points.
That's impressive.
Granted, that's off of very horrible Tatum and Brown shooting night, but
what causes that?
Yeah,
Good
exactly.
defense, getting in their face, making them miss shots early.
AG had a terrible offensive night, but I'm going to attribute that to because he was playing so hard on defense.
And that's
how well he held Jason Tatum.
Yeah, and that's what AG's job is at the end of the day. And I love seeing AG, man. He's just Mr.
Still
Nugget.
had 10 rebounds.
Right. Like, he just gets it in. He goes to work, man. He's always playing hard. And I love that about the Nuggets and the team as a whole. Like Jokic said, he's got that dog in him. I know he said that about Murray, but you could say that about almost any guy on that starting roster for sure.
Watson had 9 points in that game as well. Reggie had 4 points. The bench only scored 13 points total. So Reggie and Peyton Watson were the only 2 that scored out of the 4 people that played from the bench.
Yeah. So playoff situation, we can still win without those guys. I think the adjustment we need to make is try and get as much as we can. 2 guys off the bench getting us at least 10 points per game, and I think we're in really good shape for the playoff series. And that's doable. Reggie Jackson and Peyton Watson being able to get around 10 points per game, or even swap out Peyton Watson and Christian Brown every other game, whatever. I think that is more than reasonable ask from the bench unit going into the playoffs.
Well, and MPJ is looking consistent this week.
Yes.
I mean, he had, I think it was 18 against Philly. He had 13 against Boston, and then he had 19 against the Wizards.
Mm-hmm.
He's had and on all good shooting, and I think that's important for him to consistently stay at that 15 to 17 point range. No matter how I'm doing, I'm going to get 15 points per game. And I think that's very important to have him play like that, especially in big games like the Celtics and the 76ers.
Yeah, if we can get that stability from the starting lineup and combine it with a little bit of help from the bench, we've got no problem recreating last year, no doubt in my mind.
Yeah.
This has been Nuggets Now with Beyond Sports. Be sure to follow us on social media at Beyond Sports 5280. If you have any suggestions for the show, please call or text at 720-446-8463. Again, that's 720-446-8463. We got some Nuggets knowledge for you coming up next. Stay tuned. Welcome back to Beyond Sports. That was a good update from the Nuggets Now segment. Nuggets coming off a very tough road game schedule. Really looking forward to them coming home, even though we got a tough couple of games coming up here. But overall, really excited to see what the Nuggets can do. This is the time for them to prove themselves.
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, we've got a great segment of Nuggets knowledge for you now. This is the segment that we typically will do a historical Nuggets player, talk about them a little bit. Bob and I go back and forth. We try and beat each other, essentially, trying to guess which player the other one is talking about. And when they guess correctly, we're going to get a point. Currently, overall, Bob and I are 1-1. So, looking forward to increasing our score today. Bob's going to have a chance. So, for the Nuggets knowledge, basically what we're going to try and do here is Bob is going to try and guess this player based on the stats that I give him. And from there, we're going to try and decide their all-time Nuggets status, where they rank all-time for the Nuggets, and then their all-time NBA status, if it applies. Sometimes we can even talk about whether or not the player even deserves an all-time NBA number, depending upon the player type. But I think we've got a pretty exciting one coming up today, and I think this one does have an all-time an all-time NBA number for this guy. So,
all right, what you got for me?
Starting us off, 3rd overall pick to the Celtics. So I'm purposely removing the year just so we can expand this out a little bit. I got a few stats I'm going to throw your way, so just sit tight. I've got a few things to read off for you.
Jason Tatum.
Could you imagine him ever coming to the team?
No.
So 17-year career throughout. Not a bad career either. So long career too. 17 years is a pretty long time in the NBA. 4 seasons with the Nuggets, not consecutively, but averaged 16.9 points per game, 2.7 rebounds, 5.3 assists, and 1.1 steals while he was with the Nuggets.
Okay.
Currently actually a head coach in the NBA. So recently kind of joined
narrows
coaching staff. Yeah, only a few players for that. 5-time NBA All-Star, a Finals MVP, 3-time All-NBA, 2-time All-Defensive, 6th in MVP voting one of the years he was with the Nuggets, surprisingly. A 1-time champion, but not with the Nuggets, obviously. And then played for the team for 1 year and then returned to play for 3 consecutive years. And I think those 3 years is really what people know him from, not to give too much away. But fun fact, and this may give it away, he was born in Denver and played for the CU Buffs.
I had it when you said he was a head coach, but Chauncey Billups, for sure. Mr. Big Shot.
Chauncey Billups is correct.
Yep.
Very good job. Yeah, Chauncey, a little bit more obvious, I think, overall, but a really fun player, really fun to talk about. Really cool to see him be successful with the Pistons. I talked to a lot of Denverites, and they all like to feel like that was a win for a lot of the Denver fans out there too. Pistons, obviously Detroit, pretty tough fan base, similar fan base at the time. And to see Chauncey win in Detroit, a lot of people were happy.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, he won Finals MVP. I was about to say he was
It's
a huge
incredible.
part of the championship run, but of course he is. He deserved it, won the award. I didn't realize that he was there for a year before he came back for those 3 years.
Yeah. With how big of a legend he is, I definitely expected longer than 4 total seasons, especially longer than a 3-season run when he was with the Nuggets. And that was what he was primarily known for. He was with Melo and JR. So it was really in that era of time. Career stats, though, 15.2 points per game, 5.4 assists, 2.9 rebounds.
Yeah.
Pretty successful career overall. I mean, Chauncey Billups, I think he kind of goes under the radar with 5-time All-NBA and then 5-time NBA All-Star. Pretty insane.
Yeah.
Statistically very good. And I think his defense is really what gave him a lot of worth, just having that well-rounded game, being able to distribute. I mean, statistically speaking, he's not too far off of like a Steve Nash, really. I mean, assists, could rival that, but it's kind of a similar statistical line that we would see from somebody like that.
And I think he's a little bit better, and by a little bit, I mean better defensively
Right.
than Steve Nash.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, that wasn't exactly what Mr. Nash was known for.
No, not at all.
All right, so with that, we know Denver loves
He was
Chauncey.
good at steals, I should
Yeah,
say that.
Yeah, he was serviceable. 2-time MVP Steve Nash, so you can't really hurt him too much. But Chauncey, where are you going to put him all time when it comes to Denver? I mean, very successful. 6th in MVP voting. I don't know how many Nuggets have finished that close.
Yeah.
I mean, Melo probably at one point.
Melo probably has done that.
I mean, and Alex English, I would assume maybe, but 6th is tough.
So I think as a overall NBA player, he's going to be rated a lot higher than he will be on our Nuggets board. Do you know what I mean by that? Because
Yeah, because
he
the
was only
success
around
came
for
from the
4
Pistons.
years.
Yeah. But I mean, he did accomplish a little bit. He did take him to a conference finals.
Yep.
Really assisted with that, and that was a big deal for the Nuggets at the time. And they also had a franchise tying record one of the years he played with the Nuggets. So
I did not know that.
yeah, so that was pretty impressive. The current Nuggets have broken that record, but at the
course.
time they had tied a franchise record. So pretty impressive. I mean, obviously the team was winning, and I think Chauncey really helped them kind of gel as an overall team. So, I mean, I don't know. For me, I still would put Chauncey up there just because of the impact he's had on the city and how people remember him. I mean, a lot of people would probably name Chauncey Billups when they're talking about favorite Nuggets players. It's not uncommon to see.
Yeah.
And he was a 2-time All-Star when he was with the Nuggets.
So, okay, let me ask you this. Where would you put him? Overall?
I'd say at least top 25.
Okay.
I'd have to at least put him in top 20. I'd probably put him 21. I think that's fair. It's probably a little underrating on Chauncey personally, but I think that's an appropriate place. Given his statistical output, I think that's kind of what's hindering me from putting him higher.
I really just think given the difference in how long he's been on the team. I mean, 4 years
That's
is
true,
not that
too.
much time for all-time great players.
Right. Legends of the team. Yeah, it's hard to be a legend of the team when you've only been there for 3 years.
He's not much of a leader in many statistical categories for the Nuggets.
And that's a good point as well.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's definitely true.
I think we do have to somewhat undervalue for the Nuggets all-time list. I think, again, this is going to vastly change on the NBA all-time list. But I think probably 25 I would agree with, around there.
Yeah. Okay, so you'd say 23 then? We'd be in the middle?
23.
23. Okay, we could put him at 23. So then we got to expand that out now and look at all-time NBA list. I mean, Chauncey is on that list for sure. Finals MVP. Very limited amount of people have ever done that, period. Only 75 years. Now it's 77 years in the NBA. Not many Finals MVPs have been given out. 5-time All-Star, on all defensive team as well. Not only that, but all NBA team nods. Pretty hard to discredit Chauncey when it comes to this all-time list.
Yeah.
But it's also tough to place him. There's just so many great players that have played the game. I mean, do you say top 100? The NBA 75 list, he wasn't even remotely considered for that, which is wild. when you look at accolades specifically.
I'm trying to think of our previous players that we've put on there, kind of gauge where we've been at.
We put David Thompson, I think, in the top 75. We put him at 75.
I think
Or
we
Melo.
did too.
No, Melo we put at 75.
We put Melo in the top 75.
Yeah.
David Thompson.
I think we did 125.
125, yeah.
125 for David Thompson.
So
I definitely think he's a step above David Thompson just in overall success category, which I think definitely measure. I mean, finals MVP and winning a finals period, I think automatically separates him from a ton of players, regardless of his statistical outputs.
okay.
And not bad career overall. I mean, you know, it's not.
Oh, definitely
not a superstar level from an offensive output.
Was he there during the Malice in the Palace? That's got to be an accolade or something.
I think he was, actually. Yeah, he would have been there around that time because the other players were participating in that. So pretty wild, just insane. But I think, I don't know, top 100 then?
100? I think I'd say 100 exactly, maybe.
Yeah, I could see
I
100
feel like
exactly.
that's a good round number.
I know. I have a hard time putting him much higher than 100 just because it's tough. I mean, again, just so many great players have played. And then you see Chauncey, and obviously he's a great player as well, but it's, you know, it comes down to a lot.
Yeah.
I think 100 would be appropriate, especially 17-year career. That also really limits it. I mean, he's been in the NBA, over 1,000 games played. Not many people ever have done that.
Yeah, absolutely. I think 100's a good place for him.
All right. This has been Nuggets Knowledge with Beyond Sports. Be sure to follow us on social media at Beyond Sports 5280. If you have any suggestions for the show, be sure to call our hotline at 720-446-8463. Again, that's 720-446-8463. We've got some great stuff coming up next for you, so tune in here soon. Welcome back to Beyond Sports. Well, that was a great edition of Nuggets Knowledge featuring Chauncey Billups. Really cool to see how his career stacked up with the Nuggets and how he ended up all-time on the NBA and our all-time Nuggets list. But up next, we have some fans who took our trivia challenge. See how many you can get right in this segment here.
Name 8 players currently on the Nuggets roster.
Okay, Jokic, Jamal Murray, KCP, Aaron Gordon, Michael Porter Jr., Christian Braun, Peyton Watson, Zeke Naji, Reggie Jackson.
What college did Aaron Gordon attend?
University of Arizona.
That's correct. What coach had to resign in 2001 after an altercation with a fan?
Dan Issel.
That's correct. Nice. That's a tough
Racist
one.
comment.
Yes,
Yeah.
yeah. Nice. That's a really tough one. Who was the shortest Nuggets player to ever play for the team?
Earl Boykins.
Yes, sir.
All right.
Do you know how tall he was?
I don't. 5'9", maybe?
5'5".
Whoa.
That's why it's pretty significant.
Yeah.
Ooh, all right. If you get this one, I'll be extremely impressed.
Okay.
What was the name of Allen Iverson's program that gave tickets to local kids?
I don't know, so I'm going to guess the answer.
No. No, it was the Crossover Crew.
Okay.
Yeah. What Nuggets player appeared in a music video with Ludacris and Nelly?
Ludacris.
He
and
wasn't on the
Nelly.
team for very long, but he was a star in the NBA at that time period. So around that 2000s era.
Huh.
He's in broadcasting right now.
He's in broadcasting right now.
Like, you would know him. He's a pretty common.
Yeah.
The Nuggets
2000.
drafted him.
Jalen Rose.
That's correct.
Okay. All
Nice job.
All right.
We'll start off a little bit easy here. How many dunk contests has Aaron Gordon won?
I'm going 1.
He has won 0. What does the number on the front of this year's City Edition jerseys mean?
The altitude of the city.
Yes, sir. Great job. Okay. What college did Aaron Gordon attend?
Arizona.
That's right. Name 8 players currently on the Nuggets roster.
Jokic, KCP, MPJ, Murray. Who else do I got? I don't know. Christian Brown.
Okay, we're at 5. 3 more. You got that.
I definitely got that.
Bench guys.
I know. I can't believe I'm drawing a blank here. Hang on a minute.
It's tough on the spot.
It is tough on the spot. I didn't say Reggie Jackson
No.
yet.
6.
I can't believe, I'm forgetting who I already said.
Come on, 2 more. 2 more bench
Yeah,
guys.
I got this. You don't want to give me Blacko.
Blacko?
Blacko, you want to give me Blacko?
That's number 15 on the roster.
Watson.
There we go. All right, that's 8.
Yeah.
Okay, great
Can't believe
job.
It took that long.
Okay, so what coach had to resign in 2001 after an altercation with a fan?
Dan Issel.
Yeah, man, you guys both got that. Who is the shortest Nuggets player in the team's history?
Earl Boykins.
That is correct. What Denver Nuggets player was on the cover of NBA Live 2005? Video game cover.
That's the I'm going
2005 era.
Carmelo.
Carmelo Anthony, that's right. What college did Aaron Gordon attend?
Arizona.
That's right. What country is Jamal Murray from?
Canada, eh?
Canada. Okay, so name 8 players currently on the roster.
8 players. Jokic, Gordon, MPJ, KCP,
Yeah.
Jamal,
Okay, we're at 5.
Chris Brown.
Okay. That's a weird way to call out Chris Brown. I never even thought of that.
Not Ishmael. Julian Strother.
Strother, there we go.
And let's do
Oh, you got this in the bag.
Zeke Nash.
Zeke Naji, those are some good deep cuts right there. Okay. How many dunk contests has Aaron Gordon won?
0.
That's right. It's a trick question.
0. It's a shame. That's
That's-
why where's number 50?
It stumps a lot of people when I ask him that. All right. Who is the shortest Denver Nuggets player to play on their team? Not quite as recent.
Colin Gillespie.
Colin Gillespie is pretty short, but it's not him.
Not right now. Are you talking right now?
No, ever. All history. I'll let you take another guess. Franchise.
Boykin.
Yep, Earl Boykins.
Earl Boykin.
What coach had to resign after an altercation with a fan in 2001? He also played for the Denver Nuggets. He was the coach of the team in the early 90s, 2000s. Not a guy you would normally think of, let's say it that way. But he's like a consistent Nuggets top guy.
Alex English.
No. Dan Issel.
Dan Issel.
Yeah. What Denver Nuggets player was on the cover of NBA Live 2005?
As a Nuggets player.
Yeah. He was on the team.
Marcus Camby.
No.
2005.
Carmelo Anthony.
Carmelo Anthony.
This has been Trivia Challenge with Beyond Sports. Be sure to follow us on social media at Beyond Sports 5280. If you have any suggestions for the show, please call or text at 720-446-8463. Again, that number is 720-446-8463. We've got a great discussion surrounding the trade deadline coming up next. Stay tuned.
All right, welcome back to Beyond Sports. I'm your host, Bob Taylor. Joining me is my co-host, the Fitted Nuggets fan.
What's up, Denver?
We're coming to you from 98.1 FM, Mile High Sports Radio. Up next, we're going to be talking a little bit about NBA trade rumors and where the different teams are that need somebody.
Yeah, only a couple of weeks left to make a move, and we saw a big move come out of Indiana. And, we're going to start seeing the rest of the teams fall in line. They've got to make a move here in this time frame. So something has to be done.
Yeah, the trade deadline's February 8th, for those of you who don't know. So it's coming up pretty quickly. I think it's 17 days total. So we're going to be seeing a lot of moves in the next couple weeks. So we figured we'd talk about some of the potential moves we might see and what teams need to make moves and what teams can afford to stay put. So First, we'll talk about the big trade out of Indiana. Pascal Siakam to Indianapolis for 3 first rounds and Bruce Brown and Jordan Nwora.
Bruce.
I know. I hate seeing Bruce go. I loved him at the Pacers. For me, it was good for him to go from one of my favorite teams to the other, so I definitely enjoyed him there. However, I will say the Pacers couldn't really pass up on Siakam. He's a good fit for their team. And it's a big question because he's a free agent this summer. Will he stay? But personally, I think they don't make that trade unless they have some kind of indication, which came out from Woj the day after the trade, that they do have some kind of indication that he will be re-signing.
Yeah, and the Pacers are young enough to be able to afford to pay him what he needs, especially after moving Bruce Brown. So I think it's a good move for them. I think Siakam is the type of guy who can take a backseat to Halliburton but still produce at a high level.
Yeah.
And then they give him a defensive edge and just an overall edge, and it doesn't even interfere with Miles Turner's play style, which I think is the most effective part of this trade move, is they're still utilizing their roster to their maximum potential.
Yeah, and I watched their game against Portland on Friday, and even though they didn't win, the Pacers, who have one of the best benches in the NBA, I think the highest scoring bench in the NBA, they only had, I think, 15 points, 9 points, something. It was something very bad, and they only lost by 6. And Pascal did very well. Tyrese Halliburton did very well with him. I mean, Turner did very well with him as well. So
he had 27 points.
Yeah, they all fit in very well, and that was 2 days after the trade. So what is it going to look like in a month?
Yeah, Siakam scoring over 20 points in his first game with the Pacers just indicates how well of a fit he's going to be, including Halliburton having 17 assists that game as well. It's going to be crazy to watch that team play out. But overall, I think I'm a little happy for Bruce, but also kind of upset because I honestly thought he was going to do something with the Pacers and be more of that number 2 fit, number 3 fit for them, and it just didn't work out that way thus far into the season.
Yeah, and I think especially on his contract, even though it's big, he does have a player option next season, or actually it might be a team option, but he has an option on his contract next season. It's going to be $22 million, and even if the team that he ends up being traded to post the Raptors, because I don't think he's staying at the Raptors, I think that's flexible enough to work with where they're okay with that because they'd be dumping a salary after a year. They wouldn't have to pay him at all after a year.
Right.
So I think that's either a tradable salary, or if he gets potentially bought out from the Raptors, I think that's a good free agent to look at for other teams.
Yeah,
free agent
absolutely.
or trade, depending upon if he gets bought out or not.
Yeah, I mean, Bruce Brown's serviceable no matter where he goes, as long as people understand and utilize him for the role he is built for, and I think that's what the Nuggets did really well, and I think the Pacers expected a little bit too much of Bruce. I love Bruce, but he basically kind of averaged the exact same stats he was averaging on the Nuggets with more minutes.
Yeah, and he has been drawing a lot of interest from the league, so he's gotten interest from the Knicks and the Lakers.
Very serviceable guy. I could see him being a good fit with either one of those teams.
I would hate him going to the Lakers.
It
would upset me so much. If that's what's best for his contract and what's best for him, I get it. Do you, Bruce? But please don't do it.
Yeah, I would put him on a 4th option depending upon who they dump, but I doubt they trade Reeves in that. And that would be interesting to see.
I think it'd be I don't think him and D'Lo could share a court together. They do not like each other.
No, and that would be probably who gets moved.
I think so.
D'Lo needs to change.
They
the
have
scenery.
similar contracts too. I think D'Lo's at I think he makes $19 million a year.
Yeah, something right around that.
18. He
Pretty
makes
comparable.
18, and he's a free agent in 2024 or in 2025. So they have similar contracts going on. So I think that would be the move made. But I also think the Lakers would have to throw in more if they were to trade for Bruce straight up.
You wouldn't take D'Lo for Bruce straight up?
No.
Who else would you throw in there then?
I think they'd have to do draft compensation.
They don't have much left.
They don't have a lot. I mean, I'm not saying first round draft compensation. I'm just saying draft
Right.
compensation in general. I think 2 seconds in D'Lo might move the needle. Although Toronto has historically have a high asking price. I didn't think the Pacers were going to give up 3 draft picks.
So who would realistically Toronto go after? You're saying that D'Angelo Russell would be their target?
I think he would be a means to an end, more so a tradable asset that they could offload, similar to Bruce, but they would also pick up those 2 second-round draft picks in the process.
So they're trying to get some return on Siakam and then eventually land another
Some extra
somehow.
return on Siakam. Correct.
Okay, yeah. I could see that working out, and a lot of teams have done that to perfection, similar to the Thunder. I mean, overall, they are a wizard at training and drafting. So they've got a lot of draft compensation left. Are they somebody that you would consider making a move at this point for maybe an upgraded star? I know we talked about Zach LaVine on the Bulls a little bit, and I don't know how realistic of a possibility it would be, but
I don't think they'd
cool
make a move
pickup.
for Zach LaVine. I don't think that makes sense for their team.
Or even like a
at
DeMar
all.
DeRozan, perhaps?
Maybe
Give him some more
as a
strength at
sixth
small
man.
forward.
I mean, they could get rid of Giddey's contract, but the contracts don't really work out for them other than getting rid of Lou Dort.
Yeah,
But
that wouldn't be
they,
a good
They
move.
don't want to give up Lou Dort for DeMar
No.
DeRozan.
No,
They
don't
do
give it
have.
enough.
Let me look at it real quick. They have 12 first-round draft picks until 2029,
Wow.
and actually, I think that's off. They have 14 draft picks, first-round draft
Jeez.
picks.
Just first round.
Yeah.
So the Thunder are going to own the league one way or the other.
Essentially, yes. So they're going to have to move those picks at some point because there's only 15 roster spots.
Right. Well, and
So
they
they're
can only
gonna
pay
have
people
to-
so much.
Yeah. The team that I really think makes a splash, though, I think the Knicks do something. They actually kind of low-key have a very, very good treasure chest of draft compensation, as well as Quentin Grimes and Fournier, Fournier would be more of a salary dump, but he's not a terrible player. And his contract expires not this offseason, but next offseason. So it's kind of an expiring decent contract to give somebody, as well
Right.
as Quentin Grimes, who's a pretty good young player, and then draft capital. I mean, I think they could target potentially at Jordan Clarkson. I mean,
Yeah. That could be an addition. I don't think that's enough, though, if they're going to be really going after something.
I don't think the trade market is that
Right.
good right now, though.
Well, potentially a
unfortunately.
DeMar DeRozan could go to the Knicks. I think that would give them enough to make an actual playoff run. Then you're looking at Jalen Brunson and Julius Randle, DeMar DeRozan. I think that trio could potentially be a successful trio.
I disagree with that. I don't think DeMar DeRozan fits with that team at all. Jalen Brunson, Julius Randle, OG Anunoby, they all kind of fill the roles that DeMar would on offense, and DeMar's not a positive player on defense. So I don't really see that working out. Clarkson, I think, would be a beneficial six-man, and while you could say that DeMar could be a six-man, I just don't know if he fits into that as well as Jordan Clarkson, who's been a six-man of the year.
Yeah, he comes on and owns that role pretty quickly.
Yeah.
Because who do the Knicks have coming off the bench at the moment?
I'm not sure if DiVincenzo starts. DiVincenzo has been very good, and I think that's maybe someone they would add in a trade. Quentin Grimes has been okay. Fournier has. I'm not even sure if Fournier has been playing since the trade with OG Anunoby. But they don't have the best bench unit, and I think a Clarkson could really open them up.
Yeah, so overall, we think that the Knicks, the Bulls, potentially the Heat, and the Lakers are going to be the big movers in free agency this season.
This has been NBA Trade Rumors with Beyond Sports. Be sure to follow us on social media at Beyond Sports 5280. If you have any suggestions for the show, please call or text 720-446-8463. Again, that number is 720-446-8463. that's all for us this week. So be sure to tune in next Monday at 6 p.m. for another great episode of Beyond Sports.